Everyone said I was crazy. At night, I often saw a ghost/apparition following me like a shadow. To recover, I handed the company over to my David Miller and stayed secluded at home. But I accidentally stumbled upon a secret between my David Miller and my Jessica. The ghost/apparition tormenting me was Jessica in disguise. Even David Miller, who swore to love me forever, was her accomplice. After moving into the new house, I saw a woman in white weeping constantly every day. At first, I didn't take it seriously. Until the middle of the night, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared in the mirror, staring intently at me, her face pale and terrifying, emanating an eerie chill, demanding that I take my life. Before fainting, I used my last ounce of strength to call David Miller. David Miller was frantic. He immediately chartered a plane from overseas and flew back, swearing to find out the truth. My Jessica also contacted the country's top therapist/psychologist to treat me. But outside the private hospital room, I heard Dr. Thompson's hesitant voice, "Mr. Miller, your wife's health is already poor, she can't handle this much stress. Let's stop the medication/pills for now." My heart felt a pang of sweetness. The psychiatric medication for delusions treating my delirium was imported, tens of thousands of dollars a pill. David Miller didn't hesitate to buy it for me. "No, we can't stop. Sarah finally believes she's mentally unstable. I can get all the company share soon. Continue increasing the dosage. But if she takes too much, your wife will really lose her mind and become truly insane." David Miller sighed, "I have no choice. Jessica is pregnant, and I need to provide the best life for her and the child. Who told Sarah she couldn't have children? I'm the only son, I can't let the Miller family line end." Tears streamed down my face silently. 5 years ago, to save David Miller, I was run over by a truck and lost my uterus. I couldn't have children anymore. At that time, David Miller held me in his arms, repeatedly saying he would be good to me for a lifetime. He even flatly refused when I wanted to adopt a child. "Sarah, I only love you. Since I can't have a child genetically related to us, I will stay with you for the rest of my life." But I never expected that in just 5 years, he would get my Jessica pregnant and even try to drive me insane. How ironic all of this was. Dr. Thompson couldn't bear it and continued to persuade him, "But with your current assets, you can completely support Jessica and the child. How can you be so ruthless?" Watching Sarah break down again and again. "Don't you know she really suspects she's mentally ill now, fantasizing about being chased by a ghost/apparition at night? Sarah is innocent. You've already taken so much money, just let her live." David Miller didn't even lift an eyelid. To truly love someone is to give them the best. Sarah lived a life of luxury since she was a child and has already enjoyed too much, but Jessica ate ramen in a rental apartment with me. I can't let her suffer anymore. You reminded me, though. Find someone else to play the ghost/apparition. Jessica is pregnant, she needs to be careful. Let her stay home and enjoy herself. As for Sarah, a flicker of pain crossed David Miller's eyes, but it quickly turned to determination. "Once I transfer all the family property to Jessica, I'll go home and be completely devoted to her. At most, I'll dedicate the rest of my life to her, serve her hand and foot." I lay on the bed, lost and desperate, tears streaming out uncontrollably. The first time I saw the ghost/apparition, David Miller comforted me, saying I was working too hard, and voluntarily helped me manage the company. I also confidently handed the company over to him. As the ghost/apparition appeared night after night, I broke down, crying and begging David Miller to come home and stay with me, but he introduced me to a therapist/psychologist instead. Because I loved him, I believed everything he said. Every day I took medication/pills for mental illness and was even locked in a dark room by the doctor for desensitization therapy. But every time I felt my condition was improving, I would see that white figure at night again. I was insane. I was certain I was insane. How could a normal person see ghosts? They weren't real. My mental defenses were shattered, and I suffered in agony every day. I never considered that, from beginning to end, this was all a lie. No wonder David Miller refused to let me change doctors, insisting his technique was the world's best. He was afraid I would discover the truth. In David Miller's eyes, I was just a cash cow. Jessica was everything to him, and for her, David Miller was truly trying to drive me insane. My heart felt ripped apart. My love for him turned to utter heartbreak. The person I loved deeply was the culprit turning me into a lunatic. I suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Sarah, are you okay?" David Miller rushed into the room, his voice anxious. "What's wrong? Why are you coughing up blood? Doctor." He yelled excitedly, "How are you looking after my wife? If anything happens to her, I'll make you all pay." Watching his frantic appearance, I only felt heartache. He probably wished I was dead so he could make room for the pregnant Jessica. David Miller carefully used a towel to wipe the blood from my face, his voice gently soothing, "Don't be scared, your David Miller is here." His eyes were full of indulgence and doting. I lost myself, staring intently at him. "David Miller, did you check the surveillance footage at home?" David Miller froze for a moment, then, with caution, said, "I've checked it all. Nobody else came in." My insides felt like they were being twisted by a hand. Even now, he was still lying to me. David Miller handed me the medication/pills in his hand. "Take it. This medication/pills is 50,000 a pill. You'll definitely get better quickly." Lost in David Miller's gentle eyes, I still couldn't give up. "David Miller, I'll transfer all my company shares to you." "David Miller, if I give you all my family property, will you be able to love me wholeheartedly? Will you stop trying to drive me insane?" David Miller's eyes flashed with enormous surprise. "Sarah, the company was your father's lifelong effort to develop to where it is today. How can I, an outsider, take it?" I wrapped my arms around his waist. "You're not an outsider. You're my David Miller, the person closest to me." David Miller was moved. He leaned down and kissed the corner of my mouth. "We'll talk about these things later. For now, just take the medication/pills obediently. Only when you're well can I truly be at ease." "Can I not take it?" My chest tightened, pain piercing every breath. "David Miller, must you really put me to death? I can give you everything, just for a chance to be loved by you." "Good girl, how can your illness get better without taking the medication/pills?" David Miller's tone was gentle but carried an undeniable authority. "Okay." I put the medication/pills in my mouth and swallowed it with water. "Even if it was poison, because you were the one who gave it to me, I would take it obediently." Tears flowed uncontrollably. Seeing me cry, David Miller's heart ached again. He handed me a candy. "Take this candy, it won't be bitter." I took it, silently questioning in my heart, "If you don't love me, why are you so good to me?" Lying on the bed, I slowly closed my eyes. Before long, I heard the doorbell ring. "Sarah?" David Miller whispered, testing. After confirming I was asleep, he tiptoed to open the door. Jessica came in and immediately clung to David Miller. Under the blanket, I trembled all over, biting my lip tightly to keep from making a sound. "Is that woman not crazy yet?" Jessica's face was malicious. David Miller clapped a hand over her M.O. Quiet, don't wake her up." Jessica deliberately misbehaved, constantly teasing him. "David Miller, don't worry. I specifically asked Dr. Thompson to add a sedative to her medication/pills. She's been sleeping like a log." She pressed her mouth to David Miller's ear, then swept a scornful look at me. "You didn't see how scared she was yesterday, like she was about to peel herself any second." It was hilarious. David Miller's face flushed, his eyes glazed. He spoke with a heartache, "You're still carrying the baby. Don't go tomorrow, I'll find an actor to play the ghost/apparition." Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "No way." The way Sarah begged on her knees in front of me was too good. "I still want to go. It will tire the baby." David Miller pinched her waist. Jessica became seductive and whined, "Just let me go. I don't trust anyone else either. I'll add some stronger stuff this time, maybe I can just scare her mentally incapacitated." She provocatively reached down towards the man's lower body. Soon, David Miller's breathing became heated, and they started kissing again. "Let's go to the other room." Seeing Jessica's face full of desire, David Miller picked her up and quietly left the private hospital room. At this moment, hiding under the sheet, I finally dared to cry out loud. One was my David Miller of 5 years, the other my Jessica since childhood. The two of them were together behind my back. The last shred of warmth in my heart was completely extinguished. I pulled out my phone, found a number I hadn't contacted in a long time, and dialed it without hesitation. "Uncle Robert, help me investigate something." Actually, I should have realized it long ago. David Miller only had Jessica in his heart. At the engagement party, David Miller saw Jessica's swollen eyes. The diary locked in David Miller's drawer, filled with the name Jessica. And the business trips he took for several days every month. In 5 years of marriage, I spent almost half the time alone, yet I never suspected David Miller. I firmly believed he loved me. After all, after I lost my uterus, David Miller knelt before my mom and dad, saying he would never let me down. Looking back now, I was just too foolish and naive then. My heart was dead. I cried all night, until my eyes felt like they were bleeding. In the morning, I opened the document Uncle Robert sent me. The contents nearly made me faint. As I suspected, most of the company's assets had been secretly transferred by David Miller. But looking at the investigation report below, I collapsed to the ground. 2 years ago, the company faced an emergency. Mom and Dad rushed to the company from home in the middle of the night and got into a car accident. After being rushed to the hospital, they died from their injuries due to severe injuries. Overnight, I lost my parents. Upon hearing the news, I fainted on the spot. When I woke up again, Mom and Dad had already were buried by David Miller. I always thought it was an accident. But this investigation report clearly recorded everything that happened. 2 years into our marriage, Mom and Dad, who always cared about me, discovered David Miller's affair. When David Miller found out, pleading didn't work, so he directly hired a killer, which caused Mom and Dad's car accident. It was I who brought the wolf into the house, leading to Mom and Dad's tragic death. And after they died, I shared a bed with my enemy for 5 years. Trembling, I played the recording from the dashcam. Dad, Mom, since you are ruthless, don't blame me for being unjust. You were going to die anyway. The company can only be passed to Sarah, and she can't have children, so the company will fall into my hands sooner or later. If you had just listened, I wouldn't have done anything to you. But you insisted on making Sarah divorce me. How could that be possible? I had no choice but to personally send you on your way. My heart was completely shattered. A moment later, David Miller pushed open the door. Seeing me kneeling on the ground, he picked me up with a pained look and put my jacket over me. Sarah, I'm taking you home. David Miller deliberately canceled all his work to have dinner with me at home. My hand was weak, so he personally fed me. As he fed me, my tears flowed again. David Miller was startled. Sarah, what's wrong? Are you uncomfortable anywhere? I shook my head and smiled sadly. I miss my mom and dad. David Miller sighed lightly. Ah, Mom and Dad were good people. It's a shame fate was cruel and they got into a car accident. I stared intently at him, trying to find a trace of guilt in his eyes, but there was none. My heart felt like it had stopped. I deliberately said, yes, those who killed Mom and Dad will surely face retribution. Their whole family will suffer a terrible end. David Miller's lips trembled slightly, and he quickly changed the subject. Sarah, do you remember your Jessica? I ran into her on the street yesterday and found out it's her birthday soon. You grew up with her, and I thought having her over might help with your condition. So I'm holding a birthday party for her at our house. Everyone will get together and have a good time. You haven't been in touch for so many years, it's time to reconnect. David Miller spoke with a happy expression. I was already wondering why he canceled work to have dinner with me. Now I finally had the answer. He was only spending time with me for Jessica's birthday. Okay, I agreed, smiling. It has been several years since I saw my dear Jessica. David Miller smiled and kissed my forehead, not noticing my fallen expression. On the day of the birthday party, Jessica wore a designer gown from my closet and was surrounded by guests like a star. Seeing me come in, she twisted her slender waist and explained, Sarah, my dress had a slight issue at the last minute, so I wore yours. You don't mind, do you? Before I could speak, David's mother pushed me aside. She's not like you, Jessica. Your skin is so fair, this color doesn't suit her. It's better on you. Jessica said demurely, thank you, Auntie. Oh, don't call me Auntie, call me Mom. David's mother's eyes seemed glued to Jessica's pregnant belly. David Miller coughed slightly. Only then did David's mother turn away disdainfully, her tone unfriendly. It's been 5 years. A rooster should have laid an egg by now, but you can't even get pregnant with a child for me. If people didn't know, they'd think you'd done some wrong. Mom and Dad got hit by a car and died, and you're haunted. If you ask me, you shouldn't have married my son. You should go to church and pray to wash away your sins. When I first got engaged, David's mother found out I had no uterus and insulted me day and night, despising me for not being able to get pregnant. Now that she had Jessica, this good prospective daughter-in-law, she was even more determined to step all over my face. Some guests were also whispering, I heard Sarah has a mental illness, that she's crazy. Yes, they say she saw a ghost. No wonder her in-laws don't like her. David Miller protectively wrapped his arm around me, but the next second, David's mother yanked me out. Disgraceful. Go serve the dishes. I was roughly pushed into the kitchen, scraping a large bruise on my calf. David's mother was treating me like a servant. I knelt on the ground, feeling powerless. A moment later, Jessica opened the door and came in. Look at you, like a stray dog. So pathetic. She showed off her diamond ring. You must have noticed, right? David Miller loves me. I looked at her with hatred, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Seeing my state, she became even more smug and threw the diamond ring from her hand at my face. Here, pity you. And you still don't know, do you? I was David Miller's first love. To give me a good life, he transferred all your company's fun. DS to me. Now, you're a pauper. Oh, and do you know how your mom and dad died? Their car was flattened, but they were still alive. So I took them to the basement, one knife after another, cutting them open, sending them to meet the king of hell. Why? Hearing this shocking news, I was furious. They sponsored you since you were in school. How could you repay kindness with betrayal? Heh, sponsor me? That was just under the guise of charity to show off your family's superiority. Just because you had money? You still ended up dying by my hand. Ha ha ha. Also, you don't really think that accident 5 years ago caused you to lose your uterus, do you? When you were taken to the hospital, Dr. Thompson said you were pregnant. But how could you possibly be fit to have David Miller's child? We killed your child with our own hands, then took out your uterus, and then slowly drove you insane. A child, I had a child. He was killed without me even knowing. And mom and dad. Rage swept over my mind. I gripped the kitchen knife behind me, with only one thought. I had to make her pay for everyone. Jessica's face showed no fear, but instead extreme excitement. What? Want to kill me? Come on, I'd like to see if you have the guts. I trembled with rage and lunged forward, but only managed to graze her arm. As I swung the knife again, in the nick of time, David Miller appeared and shielded Jessica in his arms. Sarah, what are you doing? Jessica clung to David Miller, trembling with terror. I just wanted to say a few words to Sarah, but I didn't expect her to pick up a kitchen knife and try to kill me. She was babbling nonsense, saying she wanted to kill me to avenge her child and parents. David Miller's eyes were red with fury. Sarah, I think you've truly gone completely mad. No wonder you keep saying you see ghosts. Now you're acting crazy, probably possessed. Jessica has been your friend since childhood, and you're trying to kill her. My throat tightened, my voice trembling uncontrollably. David Miller, the child, my child, and mom and dad. David Miller's face darkened. He pushed me heavily to the ground and demanded, Child? Where did you get a child? It's ridiculous for a disabled person who lost her uterus to fantasize about having a child. Besides being mentally ill, do you also have delusions? As for your parents, the police officially concluded the case. They said the driver was drunk driving and it was an accident. Sarah, I can understand your pain at losing loved ones, but you can't blame Jessica just because you're suffering. I know you've always been jealous that Jessica is prettier than you, but lying through your teeth to frame her, the way you're resorting to such desperate measures, truly disappoints me. I lay sprawled on the ground, muttering to myself, it's not like this, it's not like this. I'm not crazy, I'm not mentally ill. It was Jessica, she killed my mom and dad. Why won't you believe me? Despair poured out in tears. I suddenly remembered the recording Uncle Robert sent me. Like a lifeline in desperation, I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Dad, Mom. The next second, David Miller snatched the phone from my hand and smashed it on the ground. He pulled a document from his pocket and threw it in my face. Big words were written on it, patient, Sarah, diagnosis, schizophrenia. Ha 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 ha. I laughed and cried at the same time, tears splashing onto the ground. I was indeed crazy. I was crazy for not listening to my parents' advice and insisting on marrying David Miller, that poor young man. Crazy for being a poor judge of character, treating a murderer as my best friend. Crazy for shared a bed with a hungry wolf every night. But if heaven must punish, punish me alone, let me die alone. Why take the lives of my mom and dad and my child? I picked up the dagger that had fallen to the ground and plunged it fiercely into my chest. Let me die. I harmed my low dead ones. What right do I have to live in this world? Let me go find them. Blood instantly spurted out, splashing onto the faces of the two people opposite me. David Miller's expression immediately turned to horror. His eyes widened as he rushed towards me. Sarah, what are you doing? I forced a smile, uglier than crying. David Miller, it's my fault. I shouldn't have fallen in love with you. I'm sorry. In my next life, I will never cling to you again. Before I lost consciousness, I heard David Miller let out a cry of anguish. Sarah, I didn't expect to wake up again. When I opened my eyes, the unpleasant smell of disinfectant filled the air. David Miller's voice was hoarse. Sarah, in a few days, I'll send you to a psychiatric hospital. I stared at him, unable to believe these words came from the man I had loved for 5 years. He clearly knew I wasn't truly insane, that the ghost/apparition was Jessica pretending. After Jessica gives birth to the baby healthy and safe, I'll bring you back home, okay? Jessica. It was always Jessica. Tears fell silently. My heart could no longer feel any pain. Don't worry, I'll bring you back soon. You like the coast, don't you? We'll buy a house by the coast then, and I'll stay with you every day. Listening to David Miller's promises, I was already numb. It was all fake. He was a complete and utter liar. David Miller, do you remember right after graduation, when you didn't know anything? Dad guided you step by step to get familiar with the company's business. Of course. Dad was very good to me. I am who I am today because of him. Sarah, I'll be even better to you in the future. David Miller came over and put his arm around me. I don't know where I found the strength, but I pulled away from him and demanded, how exactly did my mom and dad die? David Miller's expression turned cold. I've already explained it to you, but you just don't believe me. Because you're sick, I'll forgive you. Sarah, STO. P saying such hurtful things. Your condition is getting worse. You must take your medication/pills on time. He placed the medication/pills in my hand. I looked at him, my gaze lowered. I'm not crazy. Yes, you're not crazy. Hurry and take the medication/pills. My heart hurt so much. I looked at the fruit knife by the bed and imagined stabbing David Miller. He was my enemy, the murderer of my parents. I should plunge the knife into his chest, personally avenge mom and dad. Blood would spray out, cleansing all sins. But why did I feel so much pain? He was the man I had loved for 5 years. If I could, I would die for him. But instead, he had a blood feud with me. I swallowed the medication/pills. My heart bled as I apologized to mom and dad. I'm sorry, mom and dad. I really can't do it. I can't kill the man I love. Good girl. David Miller stroked my head. Sleep now. I'll watch over you. As soon as he finished speaking, his phone rang. David Miller, the birthday party isn't over yet. The baby and I are waiting for you. Come back quickly. I feel uneasy not seeing you, and the baby is restless too. David's mother's voice also chimed in from beside him. Son, come back quickly. What are you doing staying with that jinx? David Miller's eyes showed worry, and he immediately wanted to rush home. I held him tightly, pleading, David Miller, don't go. David Miller turned and slapped me. There you go again. Can't you control yourself? Jessica is pregnant and needs someone. You have so many people watching you at the hospital. What could possibly happen? I should have realized long ago that, to him, I was just a tool to provide Jessica with a better life. I let go of him, watching his figure retreat until he disappeared. Having taken too many medication/pills, I couldn't tell if I was clear-headed or not, but I knew I didn't want to go to a psychiatric hospital. I couldn't stand the strange looks from others. I pulled out the 4-needle A&D stumbled out of the hospital. In the dead of winter, wearing only a thin set of pajamas, I walked towards the rival company. Miss Sarah, the Giant Tree Group is your father's lifelong work. Are you really handing over the internal confidential documents to us? I smiled sadly. Things had come to this. The company was about to fall into Jessica's hands. How could I let her get her way? She must have been truly driven insane. I heard Mr. Miller was having an affair at the company for a long time. He's just waiting to get his hands on the company before kicking her out. No wonder she's willing to give up her father's lifelong effort. All the old employees know she's mentally ill. Even if she goes back, they won't accept her. I listened to these comments expressionlessly. My eyes felt sore and swollen, but I had long since run out of tears. Mr. Green placed his suit jacket over me. I finally felt a long-lost warmth. How ironic that this warmth came from a stranger. My phone vibrated. It was a message from David Miller. Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit you just now. Hearing about the baby, I got emotional for a moment. I apologize. Tomorrow, there's a project to discuss at the company, so I won't be able to take you. I've sent a driver to take you to the psychiatric hospital. Sarah, your illness will definitely be cured. Believe me, I've already bought the house by the coast. In a few months, I'll bring you over. By then, I'll make you the happiest woman in the world. I was tired of hearing these words. But year after year, day after day of waiting, what did it bring me? I didn't reply and just turned off the phone. Mr. Green took me to a public hospital. After a series of tests, Dr. Thompson regretfully informed me that my brain had suffered irreversible after effects from long-term medication/pills use. Even if I could remain clear-headed now, in a few months, my memory would gradually decline until I developed dementia. Seeing my calm face, Dr. Thompson was very surprised. Aren't you afraid? This is the death of the mind. I smiled bitterly. I already knew. Those medications/pills were given to me by my David Miller himself, and I chose to take them myself. From the moment I took them, I knew this day would come. After seeing him transfer the shares to David Miller without reservation, and then still wanting me to take the medication/pills, I understood he wouldn't let me live a normal life. He wanted to transfer all my family property to Jessica and then drive me insane, ensuring no one could threaten the woman he loved. Maybe that's what loving someone is like, unwilling to let them suffer even the slightest harm. Unfortunately, he didn't love me. Seeing me walk out like a zombie, Dr. Thompson couldn't bear it. "Hey, we have an experimental project here. Maybe it can help you. Do you want to participate? It's just very painful." Without thinking, I immediately signed the contract. I had already endured greater pain. What could be more painful than what I had gone through? In a dark room, I sat on an electric chair wearing heavy equipment, enduring the pain of the electric current at every moment. Covered in raw wounds, I was exhausted. The staff were exceptionally happy with the experimental data. "She's so pathetic. She endured the maximum electric current." Yes, but thanks to her, our experiment is progressing so quickly. She had a bad life, abandoned by everyone. But she also received a bit of heaven's grace, encountering our project. My phone vibrated. The raw wounds on my hands had stuck together. Someone next to me helped me answer it. "Sarah, where did you run off to? The driver said he couldn't find you at the hospital. Be a good girl and go with the driver. Otherwise, I'll get angry. When I get back from overtime, I'll buy you your favorite chicken noodle soup. Didn't you want a puppy too? I'll buy one for you when I get back." I force a smile, no longer having the energy to deal with him. I motioned for the person next to me to hang up. It had been a whole week. David Miller was on vacation with Jessica. Jessica sent me everything they did. The coast I wanted to go to, the scuba diving trip I mentioned long ago. David Miller did it all with Jessica. Back then, when I said I wanted to go see dolphins in the ocean, what did David Miller say? He said the company was busy, he said he didn't have time, he always had excuses. But now, he was with Jessica, seemingly tireless. It wasn't that he didn't have time, it was that he didn't have time for someone he didn't love. For Jessica, he couldn't wait to give her the world. At every scenic spot, Jessica would take photos for me, rubbing salt into my wounds. Thanks to her stimulation, I was able to get through experiment after experiment. David Miller, Jessica, I really look forward to our next meeting. A stronger electric current surged through me, but I laughed as if I felt no pain. On the other side of the Indian Ocean, David Miller was on vacation with Jessica in Maldives. After I ruined the birthday party, Jessica was furious. Full of grievances, she whined to David Miller. David Miller couldn't help himself. She was the woman he loved most, after all. Besides, she was carrying his baby, meant to carry on the Miller family name. After 7 days of vacation, David Miller finally remembered me. He frantically called the driver, only to learn I wasn't at the hospital. A bad feeling arose in his heart. He immediately found my number and called. After explaining a lot, David Miller waited for me to relent, just like before. I loved him, I couldn't bear him apologizing, so I would accept all his demands. But unexpectedly, today I hung up the phone directly. David Miller was troubled and immediately ordered someone to investigate, but this provoked Jessica's dissatisfaction. "Oh, David Miller darling, we finally got to come on VA. Cation. Just spend time with me. Now that the company is ours, and that little bitch is practically insane, we should celebrate properly." Jessica draped herself seductively on David Miller, offering a kiss. This ignited David Miller's desire. "Jessica, wait, you have the baby inside." Jessica's face was flushed. She breathed into his ear, "Dr. Thompson said we can, and besides, you've held back for so long, don't you want me?" David Miller laughed loudly and swept her up in a princess carry. Jessica buried her face in his chest, shyly saying, "Lower your voice, there are others here." David Miller squeezed her small hand and passionately kissed it by his lips. "Don't talk. You'll be screaming later." After they battled in the house for a day and a night, the secretary urgently knocked on the door. David Miller's face was dark, looking dissatisfied. "What's so urgent that you have to come now? If you don't want to work, leave early." The secretary's face was tearful. "Mr. Miller, Madam couldn't take it anymore and jumped into the sea. Her body is all bloated." "What did you say?" David Miller's face changed drastically. After rushing back to the country on a chartered plane, David Miller only received my ashes. How could this be? He looked ferocious. "My wife was fine, how could she be dead?" The driver looked at Jessica, whose pregnancy was already showing, and sighed. "Mr. Miller, Madam knew the whole truth. She was utterly disappointed in you. What? Sarah knew. David Miller's face quickly turned ashen. Seeing the torn-up photo in the house, David Miller knelt on the ground, heartbroken. On the day of the birthday party, the wound on my chest was still bleeding, but he not only didn't take care of me, he said he was going to lock me up in a psychiatric hospital. He had the hospital surveillance footage brought up. Seeing me run out in thin clothes despite my injury, David Miller was already in tears. What had he done? He had abandoned his wife to go on vacation with another woman. David Miller remembered his college years. When he was poor and had nothing, I was the one who didn't give up on him, begging my dad to let him into the company. When we got married, he couldn't afford a dowry, but I didn't despise him. I told him to take his time. I said as long as we were good together, life without money would also be happy. But such a good wife was forced to death by him. The seawater was icy cold. He couldn't imagine how desperate I must have been to jump in. The air in the room became mournful, but Jessica suddenly laughed. I was originally planning to let her live, but I didn't expect her to kill herself. David Miller, darling, we can finally be together legitimately. With that, she draped herself limply against the man's back. But David Miller suddenly pushed her away, his face dark. Who wants to be with you? I only have one wife, and that's Sarah. Jessica didn't react for a moment. David Miller, brother, didn't you give me all the family property just to get rid of Sarah and marry me? In an instant, David Miller's body became incredibly stiff. He muttered, yes, he had done so many things to hurt Sarah, but why did his heart hurt so much? In his plan, Jessica would get all the assets and live well, and he would buy the house by the coast and spend his life with me. Mr. Miller, this is Madam's phone. David Miller carefully scrolled through it. The top chat was with him. The latest message was from Dr. Thompson. Miss Sarah, I'm sorry, this illness really can't be treated. You will slowly lose your mind. Also, the medication/pills you were taking were indeed the main cause of your illness. If this medication/pills was provided by someone else, I suggest you report it to the police. David Miller looked at the picture of the medication/pills, his eyes bloodshot. This was the medication/pills he gave me. It was he who forced me to take it. David Miller angrily grabbed the secretary's collar. Didn't you say stopping the medication/pills for a while would be fine? How could it cause her illness? The driver looked like he was about to cry. Mr. Miller, taking a small dosage is fine, but you asked for increased dosage. Dr. Thompson warned you. David Miller stumbled back a few steps in disbelief. It was him. He was the culprit. Scrolling further down the phone, there were my chat records with Uncle Robert. The document clearly stated the cause of my parents' deaths, as well as the dashcam recording. Seeing this, David Miller's heart grew cold and trembled. So I knew everything. But because I loved him, I did nothing, choosing instead to end my own life. At this moment, he finally broke down and cried out in pain. Sarah, I know I was wrong. Please come back. Not all mistakes deserve forgiveness. At this moment, standing in front of the surveillance footage and looking at David Miller's face twisted in pain, I felt no emotion. For 3 whole days, David Miller locked himself in our bedroom, without eating or drinking. Jessica wailed, begging him to open the door. David Miller, our company is about to collapse. Come out and take a look. Mr. Green already knew all the company's confidential information. The fall of this empire was only a matter of time. David Miller smoked in silence, one cigarette after another. The company was originally mine. Now that I was dead, he had no motivation to continue. Finally, Jessica had no choice but to threaten him with the baby she was carrying. Only then did David Miller open the door. Go. I'll give you all the money. Go wherever you want. Jessica cried bitterly. Are you going to abandon me and the baby? He's your own child. Abandon? David Miller sneered. I was with you in high school, but you turned around and threw yourself into someone else's arms when you found out my dad was just a cleaner. I was stupid back then. I actually lied to my wife, wanting to be with you. The baby you're carrying? Who knows whose child it is? Now you want to trick me into raising someone else's kid? Jessica was both angry and anxious. She slapped David Miller across the face. David Miller, don't make baseless accusations. I've been with you for so many years. This is naturally your child. Now that the person is dead, who are you putting on this fake show of affection for? Stop pretending to be deep in love. Sarah was driven to death by you. You. David Miller was furious. How dare you? His eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed Jessica by the neck and threw her to the ground. Jessica screamed, quickly protecting her pregnant belly. David Miller, what are you doing? I'm still carrying your child. As soon as she finished speaking, the lights in the entire house went out. Everything plunged into darkness. Jessica was slightly panicked. What's going on? David Miller, quickly call the secretary over. So cold, I'm so cold. Who's talking? Cold sweat broke out on Jessica's back. David Miller, however, seemed to snap out of it. Sarah, is that you? Have you come for me? David Miller, no, don't scare me. Sarah's face was pale as she slumped to the ground. I continued speaking, my voice mournful. It's so cold here. Will you come and keep me company? Sarah, where are you? I'm coming to be with you now. David Miller spoke numbly, as if in a trance. Jessica forced herself to calm down and grabbed David Miller's hand. It's that bitch. It must be that bitch who faked her death to trick us. David Miller, snap out of it. Don't fall for her trick. Sarah, I know it's you. Stop playing these little games. Piercing cries echoed in the room, filled with sobs. Why won't you come with me? David Miller immediately broke free from Jessica's grasp. Sarah, don't listen to her. I'm coming. With that, he dragged his gaunt body, searching everywhere. David Miller, you idiot. Seeing that she couldn't rely on David Miller, Jessica frantically fumbled for her phone, but she couldn't find it anywhere. She simply sat down. Sarah, this is all you can do. But it won't scare me. I'll just stay here and wait for daybreak. Someone will come save me. Ha 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 ha. A woman in a luxurious long dress walked out of the darkness. Her intestines trailed on the ground, and her face was smashed beyond recognition. It was clearly my mother, looking exactly as she did when she died. You pretended to be a ghost/apparition to harm my daughter, but you don't believe in my existence? How is this possible? Jessica's face was filled with terror as she crawled on the ground. As she kept backing away, she bumped into something unknown. Jessica instinctively looked behind her. It was my father, his legs gone, his body arched in a bizarre posture. Jessica, come play with me. No. Jessica squeezed her eyes shut tightly. I'm here. David Miller said with a foolish laugh. When he saw my mom and dad, his eyes widened, and he stumbled back in terror. Ah! A tragic scream rang out. David Miller fell from the third floor. This shattered Jessica's last mental defense. She shook her head desperately. It wasn't me. It was all David Miller's fault. Don't come for me. Piercing cries echoed in her ears, as if trying to claim her life. I was about to continue my lines, but Jessica's head tilted, and she fainted. Yellow unknown liquid flowed out beneath her. A guilty conscience needs no accuser. How many wrongdoings had Jessica done to be so scared that she peeled herself just like that? Compared to Jessica's amateurish ghost/apparition act, I specifically hired a film crew to put on this performance. Facts proved that karma is real. When you do too many bad things, retribution will naturally find you. It was only the third floor, but after falling, David Miller lost his right arm. Jessica, however, was lucky to survive. But after waking up, the first thing she did was go to the hospital to get an abortion. The company had collapsed, and David Miller was mentally incapacitated. No one was left to take care of her. To marry into a wealthy family, a child became a burden. Perhaps due to the shock, she suffered an amniotic fluid embolism during the surgery, leading to massive bleeding. She couldn't be saved. No one came to claim her body. With the help of Mr. Green, I took all the evidence and reported David Miller for murder. Ultimately, he was sentenced to death. At this moment, I could no longer hold back my tears and cried uncontrollably. Mom and Dad, your daughter has finally avenged you.